The divine masculines are being called right now to really heal on a core level and address core wounds. And I've been receiving a lot of downloads recently, specifically about the worthiness wound. And I want to talk about this today, where it comes from, how do you know you have worthiness wound, what originates worthiness wound, and how you can start healing that. So if you identify with a masculine, divine masculine energy, masculine on a divine journey, but not necessarily, we all carry masculine and feminine energy within, right? And the feminines, they also have that worthiness wound. It's a core wound of all human beings. But like I said, I'm specifically receiving downloads that this time is very powerful for the masculines to heal that wound. That voice in your head that tells you, I'm not good enough. Nothing is ever good enough. Certain things are unachievable. How I always say it, certain things are behind the glass wall that you think you will never penetrate. And the first thing that you always, whatever wound you're addressing, have to do, it's the acknowledgement. Because the world we live in, the matrix we live in, it teaches us to just dismiss everything. It's not that big of a deal. It's nothing, especially those of us who have those woundings not coming directly from a very big trauma and a very big abuse. So people tend to think, oh, it's nothing. It's not that much. I'm really lucky. I had parents. They took care of me. They loved me, right? And you don't dive deeper into the relationships you had in childhood with your parents, with your caregivers, with people around you. And it's this toughen up energy, wounded masculine energy that rules the world of today. Toughen up. It's not that big of a deal, right? Get over yourself. No. Here in this channel, we heal, we dive deeper, we acknowledge pain is vibration. Your pain is not worse than my pain, and my pain is not less than your pain. Our pain is valid, and our woundings are important, and it's important to heal them. So let's talk about the worthiness wound. So the first thing that you need to think about is the relationship you had with your caregivers and with your parents, because usually it originates there. So we can be talking about parents that were very emotionally unavailable, that didn't acknowledge emotion, that didn't show emotion, that didn't show you that your emotions are valid. That's why this wound is so owned to the masculines, because masculines on this journey have avoidant attachment style, and they're very avoidant. So these two things usually come together, because that emotional unavailability, that making your emotions not matter, toughen up masculine kind of energy, it creates both. It creates worthiness wound, and it creates avoidance. And it's that sensation from your childhood, that mentality from your childhood, that you need to do something to be worthy of love, right? That you need to work for your love, that you need to earn love. That's why it's also so important, specifically on this journey. Again, these are universal messages, but you know that I specifically work with masculines who are on a divine journey, to connect to the energy of your feminine, because she embodies unconditional love. She is one of the core jobs of the feminine energy is to embody unconditional love, right? So your feminine, whether you want to accept that or not, and that worthiness issue is the blocker for most masculines for so long to actually accept that your feminine loves you, and there's no condition to this love. You cannot speak to her for years. You can treat her poorly. You can give her breadcrumbs, in and out energy. You can choose your karmic relationships. You can choose other women. You can choose other distraction. There she is, the other half of your soul, loving you unconditionally. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to give me anything to be part of my life. That's a whole different story. But my love for you has no condition. It has no beginning. It has no end. And that is the love that we're supposed to receive from our parents, from our childhood, from our caregivers. But that worthiness wound comes from the fact that we're not receiving that kind of a love. So it is imprinted in us through that wounding that we have to do something to be worthy, right? We don't understand that the moment we're born, we are worthy. It is our birthright to claim our highest, most abundant timeline. And the stopper between you and that is that worthiness wound. Next thing is societal conditioning. So the matrix that we live in. Again, that's why it's so important for the masculines to really understand this wound, because your job, once you rise into your divine masculine, is to break the matrix. So that societal conditioning that also feeds that energy that you have to do something in order to be worthy. Our society, our matrix, again, is ruled by wounded masculine energy right now. That's why it's so important for us to heal, to grow, to rise into our divine selves, and to break that matrix. So what does it mean? It means that the society tells you that your worthiness depends on your achievements, right? So if you have education, you're worth more than people who don't. If you have a good job, you're worth more than people who don't. If you are attractive, tall, pretty, specific features that are being up there in the society, you're worth more than the others. If you have nice car, if you have nice house, if you have nice clothes, nice items, that specifically means that you are successful, right? And there is a specific image that the society gives you. Similarly, for women, that would be you have to be the mother, you have to have children, you have to do this and that, right? We don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything. Our existence is enough for us to be worthy. This life is a gift. Everything else comes from the matrix and comes from the society. And if you want to prove this to yourself through logic, because logic is very important to the masculine, think about how it changes through generations, through millennia. And if something changes, it means that it's not universal, right? Love was always love. Kindness was always kindness. Empathy was always empathy. The definition of that wouldn't change, but your worthiness, how society sees it, would change 500 years ago, 2000 years ago, right? Because we live in a different world. So that means it's not universal, and it means it's not a foundation. It's not truth. It's an illusion. It's something that society tells you. So it doesn't really matter, right? And we are being fed with this energy, and especially men. That's why it's so important for the divine masculine to really break this, to understand it's not about the car that I have, it's not about the money, the clothes, how I look, whether I have six-pack, whether I have Givenchy clothes, whether I have a Porsche. No, this is not the base of your worth. This is a rat race, corporate wounded masculine world that rules the matrix right now, and that's something that you also have to understand. I want to add as well that for those of you who were raised in a specific religion, that adds to that as well, because religion, unfortunately, although the ideas behind every religion are beautiful, the man-made religion also creates a mentality of shame, of guilt, of sin, of clear division. What do you have to do and what you cannot do to be worthy of heaven, and certain things that you again that you do, you will end up in hell. And as much as a lot of these things again come from a place of truth, they are based in the mentality of fear. Religion are fear based. And what Matrix also does is it creates the mentality of comparison. So we're keep being told that we need to compare ourselves from childhood. Again, look at your brother. Your brother has better notes. Why cannot you be like your sister? Be more like, organized, more this and that. We're being told to compare ourselves. So the individuality, and the same thing happens in the matrix as we grow old and as a society. You look at this person, they're already married. What are you doing with your life? They're the same age and they already have a house and they already have children. What are you doing with your life? This constant comparison. And that is one of the first things that, if you watch my readings and you come on sessions with me, I teach you to break, because it wants to fit us into the mold and it kills off completely our individuality. And what's funny enough, not only it kills off our individuality, so the fact that we all have a very individual, unique path and unique frequency, and we come here to this life to achieve as a soul completely different things, and there's no way of knowing what the other person wanted to achieve, so there's no point in comparing. But funny enough, not only it kills off the individuality and sovereignty within us, but it also kills off the oneness, the fact that we are all one. We're all elements of God, of source, of one consciousness, right? Why? Because the more you compare yourself with someone, you kill off that collaboration, that teamwork sort of energy, but you create separation from this person, right? They're not like I am, and I'm supposed to be like I am. So it's this competition is this really negative energy. We can all shine, right? If you have two men, one of these men, maybe your path is to be a successful doctor and to have 3 children, and you're a different man and your path is to become a shaman and live in the forest or in Shaolin monastery, right? You can both shine. You can both shine. Similarly to women, you can have 4 children and be a soccer mom, and you can be a single a crawl woman and mom of 17 cats. We can all shine. Our individuality, our uniqueness, our authenticity is very important, and it's something that the matrix kills off. And the first thing that causes that worthiness wound that I want to talk about before we move into how do we sort of start to address that and heal that. So we had parents, we had matrix society, religion, and the last thing is trauma. So sometimes it comes from abuse, from bullying, from traumatic events in our childhood that made us feel less than others. Again, they're all very connected, because they're making you feel less separates you from the others and kills off that oneness, and that collaboration creates a mentality of competition. But for those of you who have been, heavily bullied, whether that's in your family, we sometimes ignore this. Bullying doesn't, necessarily mean that you go to school and kids, laugh at you and your friends laugh at you. But sometimes it happens in your house. It can be your father or your mother that tells you that you're ridiculous because you're too sensitive, or you're emotional, or you're too fat, or you're not good enough in school. Whatever that is, that shame mentality, that critical voice coming from externally from other people. So that's something that we also have to remember and address. Let's talk about healing, right? So you know that I will always recommend working with a specialist depending on your individual path. That could be either therapist, it could be a shadow worker like myself, because wounds are shadows or traumas, all same, different wording. You can choose a shaman if you resonate more with a shamanic healing. Again, it's going to depend on what you feel in your heart that would be better for you. But many people start from self work, because I do know and I do understand that it's very intimidating to come on session. And it also really, it's funny enough, it's that vicious cycle. It requires some level of self love to say, I want to change. I want to do this for myself. I want to come to this person, again, shaman, healer, shadow worker, therapist, once a week or once a month, and really be vulnerable, really invest in myself. Again, that worthiness wound creates a mentality that we're not worthy of our own time, our own money, and to put things into, again, we prefer to buy clothes, spend money on clothes, spend money on entertainment, spend money of, appearances, be it Botox or lip injections, that spend money on our soul. Come to a shadow worker, come to therapy, right? We're going to be saying ridiculous things that we don't have money. And as much as I understand that there may be people who don't have money, I promise you that 90% of people who come and say that they cannot afford shadow work or therapy, they're just, and then you're going to go and eat with your friends, and you go to a bar to drink with your friends, and you're going to do lip injections, then you're going to buy clothes that you don't need, instead of investing in the health of your soul and your mental health. Just a side note, food for thought. But if you want to start on your own, here are a couple of things that I can suggest. One is that inner child healing. And if you go to therapy, you would start from that as well. So my favorite technique, and I spoke about this a little bit in a recent week. I think you can go to my page and find a video in the forest as I was talking about separation and creating an illusion of separation. So I love this technique. It's separating the part of your psyche, in this case, the wounded inner child, right? The child that was born innocent and was told nonsense things that we already mentioned by parents, caregivers, society, people, friends in school, so on, so forth. Separate that part of your psyche. Separate him. Visualize him, the little you. Give him a name. You can give him the same name as yours. Just maybe use a bit of a funny, nickname, and give him care. Give him love. Say to that child everything that he should have heard from his mother, from his father. And a side note, it's coming to my mind, so maybe it's important for some of you. It's very important to understand here that, our parents, they're not the bad cops in the story. They're not necessarily evil. They're not necessarily abusive. This is why it's so important, because a lot of us, we have good parents, right? And what society would tell us that they were good parents, but we have to remember that our parents did the best that they could. The best that they could. If they didn't give you that unconditional love, if they didn't give you that empathy, if they didn't give you that care, that nurturing energy, is because they were not capable of, because someone did not give it to them. And it goes on. This is why I talk about breaking generational curse. Side note, but don't focus in that healing in pointing fingers towards your parents. Don't focus how abusive, how wounded they were. It's irrelevant. But say to yourself and give to yourself everything that you should have received from them, that unconditional love, that nourishing, that understanding. So talk to that inner child. Talk to him. Visualize him. Visualization is a very powerful tool. Sit on your couch. See him. Watch him cry. Hug him. Tell him, it's okay. It's okay. You are worthy. You're amazing. You're doing a great job, buddy. I love you. Source loves you. You are loved. That love is unconditional. There's so many people that love you, myself included, my feminine included, if that helps. Source, God, your spiritual guide, your angels. And your parents love you too. And they didn't show that because they were not capable of showing that. So give him love. And again, you can do this with every part of your psyche. So as you progress on this journey, you feel like you've given enough care to that inner child, you can separate that part of you that always is that voice of, you're not worthy, you're not going to get it, you're not going to achieve it, why would you do this, right? Separate him as well. Give him name as well. Talk to him, because a very important part that you have to understand on the journey of healing, that shadows are part of our armor. They're not something evil that we're supposed to get rid of. Shadows are created to protect us. When we're small, when we're vulnerable, when we're children, right? That first part of our life, that physical karma that we go through, shadows are created as a byproduct of our body wanting to protect us, right? So something happens, we build that armor, we create those shadows. So you're not supposed to shame that part of you that feels that it's not worthy, or shame that inner child. The separation that you're creating is to give it love, right? Your overthinking, your avoidance, your anxiety, your worthiness wound, your betrayal wound, you separate it to see it as a separate persona, separate part of your psyche, not to shame and be like, oh my God, you're such a blocker on my journey, but to give it love. Thank you. I see you. I understand you. I understand that you were created to protect me. But now I have more knowledge. Now I have more strength. Now let's work through this. You are safe, you are loved, you don't have to activate that avoidance, you don't have to activate that overthinking, you don't have to activate. It's okay, I got this. This is how we heal. And when you separate the shadow, when you work through, it's sort of like a therapy, or couples therapy, you and your specific shadow. When you're ready, it will naturally integrate back into your psyche, and it will just become, it will always be there, but you will be friends with it, be friends with your demons. You will understand it. You will know very well when it gets activated, and you will be able to silence it because it's no longer in control. It is now your soul, when you're healed, that is in control, and that shadow simply just exists there, always. Next technique that I love and I always recommend, it seems like really something insignificant, but it's very powerful. It's journaling and writing down. When you separate that part of your psyche, that inner child, you talk to him. Every time he says something, acknowledge it, think about it, write it down. And writing it down and journaling is a very powerful tool, especially for the masculines, because it's that first level channeling, right? When you are very healed, when you are in your divine state, a lot of us opens as a channel because we're tapped into our intuition, right? So we receive divine knowledge directly from source. But when you're still in that mindset, when you're wounded, you don't necessarily believe in those things, you would be surprised how channeling goes through when you journal, because you just start to write, and you're writing and you're writing and you're writing, and you find yourself just writing down things that you haven't been thinking about, because this is you connecting subconsciously to your higher self and just writing the answers that you were looking for. So it's a very, very powerful tool. Next thing, naturally, is choosing love. You know, I strongly, strongly advocate for that. Choose love over fear. Sort of a mindset and approach every day to everything that we do. But healing that worthiness wound specifically, it's very important, because you have to train yourself and train your brain to choose love and talk positively towards yourself. And here, mindfulness is very important as well. So whenever you feel like you're not good enough, you're not attractive enough, you're not strong enough, you're not worthy enough because this and that, really think, where is this thought coming from? How about, instead of saying that I'm not good enough, I see something positive within me. I talk good towards myself. Become your own fan, your own cheerleader, your own advocate. Separate that strong part of your psyche that will also be here on the side every day saying to you, why would you think that? Why would you think that? And that infamous question, who told you that? Then there's this beautiful song, who told you you're hard to love? I'll put it at the end of this video. Who told you that? So every time that thought comes to your mind, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy of this woman, I'm not worthy of this job, I'm not, who told you that? Why would you think that? Go deeper, analyze, question everything, because it's not coming from a place of soul. It's coming from a place of armor, limiting belief, self-sabotage, avoidance, wounded energy. Next thing is to fix your understanding of true worthiness. This is what I always say. The wounded masculine energy thinks that worthiness comes from the car you have, from the money you make, from the job you have, education, clothes, appearance, house, comparing to other people same age. No, fix that. Abundance is a byproduct of you following your path. As a divine masculine, you are the leader of new earth. You are the one that will break the paradigm, the one that will break the matrix. Your worthiness comes solely from your values. And this is where I love that camel story, right? The camel story that was twisted in the Bible, but Joshua actually wanted to show us something very beautiful, which means that there's nothing wrong in having physical things. There's nothing wrong. There's no, again, that religion, that sin and fear mentality, you're going to end up in hell. There's nothing wrong in having beautiful cars and you know, travels and clothes and items, as long as they're not the objective. They're supposed to be a byproduct that you know, make use of, but you don't really care about. It's not what drives you. But what should drive you is all the things that your soul will be able to carry once it sheds this physical body. So your growth, your values, your truth, your integrity, your strength of the character, do you know what I mean? Nothing physical. So really set right your understanding of what builds your true worth. And the last very important thing when you're starting to address that wounding, that worthiness wound on your own, is body work. Why? Because it is the ego, it is the body, it is the flesh and blood physical body where we carry that trauma, all the wounds, all the core wounds, all the traumas, they carried within the body. That's why on a journey of healing, it's so important to have that mind, soul, body connection. So you can do things like breath work. If you type breath work in YouTube, you're going to get amazing, fast 10-15 minutes breath work exercises you can do in the morning and at night. Guided meditations, very powerful. Yoga Nidra, very powerful. You can type that in Google as well. It's just a type of yoga that you basically lie down in one of few positions and they guide you through also certain exercises. But any kind of movement, yoga could be as well, dancing, stretching, self-massage, just connecting to your body, really feeling your body, really understanding that this is a vessel that allows you to live this human experience, and it carries that trauma for you, and you have to help it to release that trauma. If that's something that resonates, there's so many ways and exercises you can really connect to your body. So you can Google that, ask ChatGPT what it would recommend, and it's very powerful because again, this helps us to really connect to our body and really release that trauma, because that disconnect from your body and the spirit that lives within causes that armor always to go up. You have to understand that it's the soul that holds the rein, and the body is just a beautiful vessel, a house for that soul that is supposed to be a tool to exist here. It's not supposed to hold the reins. It's not supposed to give you a direction. I love you so incredibly much, and I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, let me know. If you feel like signing up for a session, drop me a message on Instagram. I love you. You got this.
Who told you you were hard to love? Hard to love.